Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. We are back with another talk video way sooner than I was expecting to be. We just put out one yesterday that covered all of last week's information. I re-uploaded that because I made a mistake and left out the rank or raid portion, but we're probably going to touch upon some of that when we discuss the state of the galaxy. Today, just two topics. We're going to hit the Mando kit, then go through the state of the galaxy. The developer insight this time around was a little light. I don't think there's too much to really highlight within it. First up, we have the Beskar Mando kit reveal, but before we work our way through this, we're going to take a look at the breakdown that we like to do on this channel, where we strip away all the extraneous information and at its core look at, in a simplified way, what this kit does. So first we have a basic that is an attack, and it inflicts dots. If the character was already debuffed, then the damage is going to occur a second time, and this is going to synergize well with the leadership that we will get to in a second. The first special, this is a preparation ability is the way that I thought about it, where you go into this preparation mode where the next turn you will be using swift takedown, and during that preparation period is when you can gain stacks of whistling birds. You can't gain stacks outside of this preparation, of this disciplined setup. Second special is Wonder of the Force. This is the Baby Yoda ability. It's a dispel of debuffs on both light and dark side scoundrels, equalizes the protection, recovers 20% protection, and then reduces 20% turn meter. Third special is linked up with the discipline setup. It's an AoE damage. It's the Unleashing of the Whistling Birds, inflicts healing immunity, and it can't be countered or evaded. And if anyone dies from it, they can't be revived. The leadership, this is pretty powerful. I like this one. So per scoundrel, you gain max health, protection, and offense. That's going to go great with already the shared health and offense pool that Queel's giving off. And then you're gaining 2% turn meter when an enemy takes damage. And the way that they're phrasing this is really important, because the taking damage is including all of those debuffs that are occurring over time. So if you are inflicting burning, if it's dots, if it's shock, if it's all of these all those debuffs that cause damage are also going to be giving that 2% turn meter. And that's one of the things that was actually useful in the developer insight. The second Zeta is the unique protective intuition, immune to ability block. I think the key part here is once you go into discipline setup, if there was ability block, then you wouldn't be able to do swift takedown the next turn. So that's a major portion. But it's also the first time we've seen something like immune to ability block, I think, other than like Treya cleansing herself so that it's effectively immune. And then he's also getting 40% potency and tenacity. First time an ally falls below 75% health, Mando cleanses himself, gains a bonus turn, and then Wonder of the Force, the cooldowns are reset. So when we look at the kit here, they show the synergies of IG-11, which makes sense, where he's doing the AoE debuffs and the AoE attack. That's going to synergize well with the setup, discipline setup. Han Solo and Chewbacca, I think that's the same kind of idea as discipline setup, where those multiple hits that Han and Chewie are going to be doing are going to help increase those stacks. Nest is the same thing. Any AoE ability, those counters that Nest is going to be doing, those are going to be gaining a lot of stacks. And then L3 is the same kind of deal, with a lot of consistent counters, plus L3 is already synergizing well with IG-11 and Queel. So we take a look at what's going on here. We have the Vibro Blade for the basic. Kind of surprised that this is the direction they went with, because it doesn't feel like a journey character to me, but whatever, I think it's still cool. The discipline setup here, where he's just getting ready to use the special ability of swift takedown. The key thing here that I want to highlight, and this was clarified in the developer insight, is that you only gain stacks during the discipline setup period. And so that's why you want to pair him up with these characters like IG-11, Cara Dune, Queel will, just because he's going to be with IG-11. But Queel's also putting shock and burning. Those debuffs are going to work really well to increasing those stacks and increasing the turn meter. Any AoE abilities are going to be working towards getting that max 20 stacks. You don't want to be using characters who are going to limit how quickly you can get these stacks up. And it's actually why I think like Han and Chewie, other than being able to assist all the time, they're not inflicting debuffs that are going to be doing damage, that are really going to be adding to the leadership and to the increasing stacks here. Next we have Wonder of the Force with Baby Yoda. I was hoping he was going to be summoned instead of just this ability. Like I wanted to see Baby Yoda on the field at all times instead of just this moment. But it sounds like from the developer insight in the character screen, we're going to be able to see Yoda probably on the back like we see in the artwork. But this, again, dispels the turn meter reduction, can't be evaded. And then the last part I didn't highlight in the text breakdown was damage immunity is going to go to Mando on himself, and it can be a targeted ally can also receive it. And that was more just because I ran out of room. Swift takedown we already highlighted, and then the leadership and the protective intuition, we've already broken those down. So what I really like here is it always seemed very wonky to have Greef Karga and Mando, like the brown armor Mando, in with Queel and IG-11. It didn't really work. Cara Dune, to a certain extent too, just didn't work with the Mando and Karga. So it's nice that we can just throw Mando in with a bounty hunter squad, and now this Mando without the bounty hunter tag is clearly intended to go along with the scoundrels. Karga, though, I think can go either way, because the nice thing about Karga is he can put retribution up, and that retribution is going to work well with that discipline setup phase, where if you time it right, you get the retribution up, and any attacks that happen during that phase are going to contribute to those stacks. Plus, Karga is also going to be recovering protection, which is going to make this team even tankier. Like this squad with IG-11, Cara, Queel, and Beskar armor Mando is going to be very survivable with all these shared stats, with the protection recovery, with mechanic savvy. It's going to be a tough team, I think. And actually, I think there's a chance that brown armor Mando is going to be one of the effective counters, where when you have an ability like Disintegrate, those abilities counteract all these shared stat characters that you're seeing, like with Mon Mothma and 3 Baka. We're going to wrap up here with the state of the galaxy. Most of this was kind of a rundown of the things that have already happened, but there was a couple pieces of information of things that will be happening that I think are important to extract here. So first up, challenge tier rank, where they're just talking about how the small amount of completions and going towards relic 8. So that's basically just saying like relic 8 is going to affect a lot of the tip of the spear players, which that was anticipated. One of the things that was left out of the last talk video, I've since re-uploaded it, but what was left out was my rank or raid comments, and I'll briefly summarize it here. It's these new progression systems, when it comes to like more mods, increased relic levels, like I think these are a good thing for players who care about Grand Arena, because these progression systems allow those players who have more optimized rosters to either kind of stay put for a while and see where the dust settles and figure out where they want to place their relics, or it allows those players who really rush and kind of pursue the progression and move upward to kind of move beyond you, so you're no longer being matched up against them. And if you've done things like geared characters who didn't deserve to be geared, or you had to gear certain characters for like Galactic Legends or for Jedi Knight Luke, like I have Rolo, Cholo, and Lando all at Relic 3, and they make my matchups a little bit harder. But when you have these new progression systems, it makes the negative impact of like having a bunch of worthless resistance characters at relic whatever and higher have less of an impact, or for my case, like having relic 3 JKL requirements, those characters are going to have less of an impact as more of the roster is needed to move up to relic 5 and then work towards relic 8. I'm not in any rush to get these materials or to get characters up to relic 5. I'm going to wait until the rest of the community figures out what are the best teams to tackle this challenge tier. Then I'm going to worry about putting those relic materials on. Right now, I'm not getting diverted from my overall relicking strategy that I'm working on for Grand Arena, and then also pursuing my own Galactic Legend. I'm pursuing Jedi Master Luke. This next section here is just Beskar Mando, which we had already discussed, and a lot of this was in yesterday's video. There's some nice animations there. The wrapping up 2020 portion, this was basically just talking about what has previously happened, about the Galactic Legends Jedi Luke, but the Galactic Challenges as well. But the thing here that I think is worth highlighting is we're also preparing to produce even more game modes and continue to expand the volume of events. I mean, some of this stuff might just be words, but one of the things that Arnold put out a video last week, I think, was like a data mine for a game mode called Conquest. I forget the specifics of it. I don't even remember if I watched the entire video, but there's a lot of opportunity from like games like Marvel Strike Force, from that Disney's Force Arena, Sorcerer's Arena, where there are game modes, PvE and PvP game modes within that can be added to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And I like that we're hearing from their rhetoric that they are looking to expand the game and invest in the game, which are things that we were not hearing before. So when it comes to these early 2021 plans, what I really want to highlight here is going into this next year, we have an eye towards the continuing expansion, renovation of our many systems and characters. So with that, they're basically saying reworks are part of the plan. Hopefully that means Mace Windu. One thing though I did say in a previous video, in the new account videos I've been doing, is as I break down the early game, I'm going to revisit the early game, I think it makes reworking Mace Windu really difficult, because making him too powerful messes up the early game. They would have to either remove him from the early game or make a lot of his abilities benefit from synergies with other late game characters. Otherwise, it throws off that early game balance, which I think they've done a lot. To their credit, CG has put a ton of effort into thinking about that early game balance and which characters are accessible and available to that early game in order to not break the early game. And I think that's great. And I think that's part of the reason why we haven't seen a Mace Windu rework yet. I say just take him out of the early game. Nobody needs to use the endurance. Last up is the armor is confirmed. Some people have been talking about the armor being a cool character, but also just would make sense from an action standpoint to fit into the game. I like that we are going to see the armor, especially when we look at some of these fringe characters in Star Wars media that we haven't been seeing. Like, we never saw Zori Bliss from Rise of Skywalker, which I would have liked to see. I mean, that's a cool looking character. And the armor was a similar type of character that just had small role but big impact, and I like that we are going to see her in game. I expect it to be a marquee. The only other thing that I've been playing around in my head is that I fully expect there to be a Trooper Legendary at some point. I think there's been a lot of smoke around Troopers for a while now, and I wouldn't be surprised that in the next several weeks that we see something that is going to require Troopers. One last thing that I almost forgot I wanted to say here in this Beskar armor portion, they do talk about here that things are geared towards 10, but they're already implying that they wouldn't be surprised if players do it with less gear. that means I'm way above my lowest viable team's threshold for unlocking Mando. I already have those characters at gear 10. So what that means is it's my new account. I am going to be pursuing Mando. Not immediately, but fairly soon. I can't even farm Karga and Mando yet. I will be using that account to figure out what those lower thresholds are to unlock Mando. That will take some time. I'm sure a lot of you will find it before I am, but that is going to be a long-term goal of the channel. We're going to wrap it up there. It's been an exciting couple weeks for Star Wars. I'm very excited for this event. If you're working towards Jedi Knight Luke, I fully expect him to show back up in the next 2 weeks. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This has been Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.